The five aggregates. In brief, the five grasped-at groups are suffering, and they are as follows: the grasped-at group of the body, the grasped-at group of feeling, the grasped-at group of perception, the grasped-at group of mental formations, the grasped-at group of consciousness. For full knowledge of which, while the Exalted One was still alive,
he has frequently instructed disciples in this way. This section of teaching taught by the Exalted One among disciples was thus. Many times has he emphasized, body is impermanent. Feeling is impermanent, perception is impermanent. Mental formations are impermanent, consciousness is impermanent. Body is not self, feeling is not self, perception is not self. Mental formations are not self, consciousness is not self. Compiled from the words of the Buddha. When one begins meditation, there's enthusiasm. I'm really going to do this now as well as I can. After a few days, one gets used to it. Then, the mind starts thinking, isn't this ever going to end? I can assure you, it will. You see, everything ends. Nothing lasts forever.
When the mind talks like that, just watch, be aware, and say, are you playing games with me again? Don't believe a word the mind is saying. You don't believe everything it says outside meditation. So why should you believe what it says during meditation? It's as unruly in as out of meditation. It just plays games with us. Every time the mind makes such statements as, I've had enough, I'll never get enlightened, or, I'm doing so well, I can go home, you can just answer, be quiet. I'm going to meditate. It's a matter of determination, one of the 10 virtues. One can't get along without it.
The mind also has other things to talk about. It wants to entertain itself with all that is lacking for its sensual enjoyment. It's used to having far more sense stimulations, more entertainments. It's used to having discussions, going from one place to another, seeing different sights, going shopping, and choosing what it prefers. It's used to meeting different people. Here we see the same old faces again. Nothing new. Nothing to discuss. It's used to getting different kinds of food every day and deciding what it wants to eat. Here it has to take what's there. All these things are irksome to the mind because it wants its own way. The ego says, I want it my way and no other way. We are so used to believing this that we don't take time to investigate this attitude. If we did, we would soon know, this is desire, craving that creates nothing but suffering. That is all it can ever create.
When the mind starts acting in this way, talk back to it. Be your own mother. Tell the mind that it's behaving like a child, that you are the mother, that you are looking out for its welfare, and that you know what's good for it. Be both mother and child. Ordinarily we are 50 or 100 different people. Thinking good thoughts, thinking nasty thoughts, feeling good about other people, creating havoc inside. We have all sorts of personas. Here we can be mother and child. The childish one wants everything its own way, and the mother says, no. We're going to do it the best way, which may not be the easiest, but the most skillful. The reason for these difficulties has been explained by the Buddha in the 5 aggregates of clinging, which are what we consist of. They are all there is to us. Yet we make something out of them, which isn't there. Again, the mind plays games so successfully that everybody believes it.
The body. The 5 aggregates of clinging have as their largest and most noticeable object, the body. Nobody can forget that, and everybody has some sort of problem with it. Not necessarily consistently, but now and then. I can't sit. My knees are hurting. My back's hurting. My tummy is hurting. I'm feeling dizzy. I'm feeling tired. The Buddha said that the unenlightened, untrained disciple has 2 darts or 2 arrows that are hurting him, and the enlightened, trained disciple has 1. The 2 arrows are mind and body, and the one is the body only. The Buddha also fell ill sometimes, but he continued to teach. It didn't stop him at all. In the end he became very ill, and when he was on the verge of dying he went into the meditative absorptions and thus passed away. Having very bad stomach cramps was no deterrent to him.
The enlightened, trained disciple also has body problems and difficulties. This body just isn't perfect, and it's never totally satisfactory. When the unenlightened, untrained disciple is affected by that, a reaction arises in the mind and responds with, "I'm feeling badly. I can't do this or that because of my condition, my body hurts so that I can't sit up or lie down or stand, or whatever it may be that feels uncomfortable." The worst of it is constantly trying to adjust one's activities to the way the body dictates. Is it ever possible to adjust one's situation totally, so that the body feels perfectly all right? Has anyone yet found that situation where the body always feels perfect? You can move from here to there, from one climate to another, from a chair to a couch, from the couch to the floor, and back to the chair. What happens? Nothing. There's always a problem. So we might as well stay on this pillow.
This body, which is the first one of the 5 attributes that we consist of, has as its characteristic a changeable nature. Nobody will deny that. But the changeable nature automatically brings unsatisfactoriness with it. If we find a comfortable position, it doesn't stay that way for more than 5 or 10 minutes. Discomfort arises again and again. Even at night, on the best mattress, the body still moves. Because of the body's inherent nature of change, there is constant friction. The movement of the blood, of the lungs, the heart and the breath. All are necessary for staying alive, but each movement creates friction. It's impossible for them not to. With that movement comes subtle discomfort. The more awareness one has, the more one knows this discomfort. The more one can also realize that as long as there is a body, there will never be total satisfaction gained through it. Eventually the body and its demands have to be disregarded. It always has new demands. Once it's full of food, it wants to clean out its bowels. Having done that, it wants to get new food. It's always reaching for something, never satisfied. It can't be. Because it is constantly changing, it needs repetitive input and outflow, otherwise it can't even stay alive.
Over and over again the Buddha recommended mindfully putting one's attention on the body as the path to liberation. Whoever does not observe the body with mindfulness has not seen the path to the deathless, he said. This encourages equanimity about the useless demands of the body and also brings more insight to the fact that to say, "This is my body," is an illusion. If it were my body, if I really were the owner of it, why doesn't the body behave the way I'd like it to behave? Why doesn't it stay young, beautiful, and healthy for as long as we want it to? And even when it is young, beautiful, and healthy, why does it have demands that we can't satisfy, namely constant comfort? Even then, the sitting position in meditation becomes unpleasant. Why doesn't it listen? Why does it die when we want to live? Why do other people's bodies die when we want them to live?
Either it's total chaos or there is some misconception in our mind about body, self, life, and death. There is a strong feeling in each one of us that this body is mine. Yet there's very little one can do with it, except constantly comply with its demands. Put it to bed when it's tired, get it to the dinner table when it's hungry, give it something to drink when it's thirsty, make it move when it's uncomfortable. We adhere to its demands and are not really in charge of it. Mindfulness, which puts full attention on the movements and the characteristics of the body, can eventually see with clarity that the body is nothing but a conglomeration of parts that happen to be working in some manner and fashion as long as there's life. The parts hardly ever work quite perfectly, otherwise there wouldn't be any aches and pains, and they only keep going for a certain number of years.
We call this body mine, creating the illusion of a me. We think, I know what I look like. When I look in the mirror I see me, and I actually know this is me. Yet, were we to make a closer examination we would find thousands of me's, all different sizes, shapes, and colors. Sometimes a little fatter, sometimes a little thinner, first short, then taller, having black hair, then gray hair, having no glasses, later with glasses, feeling miserable, then feeling wonderful. The question must arise, which one is me? If the answer is, I'm all these different people, we have at least seen that we're not one, but maybe 100,000 people, as we've already discussed. Which one of the 100,000 can we pick out to be the real me? There has to be somebody that's real to keep the me going. It's impossible for one person to be 100,000 people. It doesn't work, does it? We may think, I'll pick the one I am at this moment, but then what about the next moment? What about 10 years from now? Always the one in this moment, that's me. We wind up with a constantly changing me that is sometimes hardly recognizable. Yet we think this is my body and attach great importance to it. Of course, we have to look after our bodies. It would be foolishness not to. But to let our bodies dictate our lives is futile, because the body will never be satisfied. Even at one's last moments, the body still craves comfort. There are several meditation techniques the Buddha
mentioned in the discourse on the foundations of mindfulness that help one to lose some of one's attachment and ego illusion about the body. There has to be a balance between calm and insight. Insight is essential and can result in the unconditioned. Calm is always conditioned by the ability to concentrate. If anything happens to the body and the body is no longer able to sit, the calm will be gone because insight has not arisen. Insight about this body has to be part and parcel of the spiritual path. The meditations that the Buddha advocated in the Foundations of Mindfulness discourse are called the charnel ground meditations, 9 different ways of seeing one's own dead body. We are definitely going to be dead, so we might as well accept it now and not wait until it happens. We might even now shake with fear every time the heart misses a beat, or we don't feel quite as well as we used to when we were 17. One of the ways of meditation on death is seeing oneself as a skeleton. Look at it sitting there in the meditative posture. Next, take the skeleton apart and lay the bones out one by one. Then let the bones crumble to dust. It takes away some of the ego illusion and the attachment to this body. One of our impediments is desire for physical comfort. It doesn't allow us to stay up at night because we could be too tired. It asks us to